Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
This is a broadcast that features you and your calls. So if there's something that's on your mind as far as the holidays are concerned, the new year, something else is going on, switchboard is wide open. It's just, I'm calling it Holiday Heathenry. We shall hang out together. We shall fellowship together as brothers and sisters in the Lord. Now, at the time of this broadcast, I am limited as to where the stream is going out, because I have once again been banned on Facebook. I'm in the middle of a 7-day ban again, because the Facebook algorithms and apparently whoever's making the decisions has no idea. They don't understand either the American idiom. They don't understand context. They don't get sarcasm. Whoever's making the decision whenever I appeal, and I do appeal. Do you disagree with this ban? Yes, I disagree with it. You know, it's been hate speech. I mentioned earlier about the time I was talking about how we are all animals and Christians include that category. Christians are human beings. Human beings are animals. Facebook says, how dare you call Christians animals? You are banned. Well, here's what happened this week. I reposted something that had been put up by Holy Kool-Aid, Thomas Westbrook, and it's sarcasm. How can I get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine out of my system? A guy named Dave responds, and he says this. A secret I learned in my 20 years as a military doctor: if you get a vaccine that you really don't want and need to remove it from your body, there's only one surefire method to do so. Take 2 to 3 habanero peppers, blend them up with 1.5 cups of water, and administer it as an enema. The special acids in the peppers not only deactivate any tracking chips, but also absorb the vaccine toxins right out of your body through your intestinal lining so they can be immediately excreted. That way, you can get the so-called vaccination card without the health risks of keeping the vaccine in your body. So obviously, he's tweaking the anti-vaxxers. Yeah, put this in your ass, and it will get rid of the microchip and whatever. It's sarcasm, right? It's supposed to be funny. So I share it on Facebook. Log in the next morning. We're sorry, you no longer have access to your account for 7 days because you posted vaccine misinformation. Disagree with the decision. We're very sorry, but we have so many disagreements with decisions on Facebook and so few people to monitor, so few human beings. We cannot guarantee that this will be reviewed, but, we'll do our best. Anyway, I'm in the middle of a 7-day ban. Again, I think this is the 3rd or 4th ban I've had. I mean, are you banning me? The Mr. Rogers of atheist activism? What did I do? What did I do? Facebook jail, prison, it changes a man. I'm just saying. What else is going on? Just resubmitted a manuscript for a book supposed to be out in the spring. Actually, I submitted it last week to the publisher. A couple of days passed and I took another look at it and I realized I hated whole sections of it. Now, this is not relevant. What were you thinking here? Here's a momentum killer. This could be said much better. And all of a sudden I panicked, went back and took days and days and days and just rewrote a whole bunch of it, deleted 3,000 words, right? I'd called the publisher. Don't send it to formatting. Please don't do anything with it. Don't touch it. I have to make fixes. 45 minutes ago, just resubmitted for copy editing, and then it goes off to formatting. So I've been working on that. It should be out March or April. It's a book version that is a much deeper dive of the speech I gave back in 2017 called Christianity Made Me Talk Like an Idiot. Gets into the psychology of belief and all the crazy shit that we used to do in the faith that seemed normal at the time, but actually they were lunacy. And so, the speech is sort of a tip of the iceberg, but the book really dives in. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people. That's coming up in a few months. We did a Christmas light tour. You ever done one of those? Get in a vehicle, you drive around. I've enjoyed seeing the Christmas lights, but at a Christmas family thing, we had a limited family thing a few days ago, and they scheduled a Hummer limousine. You ever seen one of those? The Humvee limos? Massive vehicle, big white Humvee limousine. And you rent it out for a few $100 and everybody piles in, and then they drive you all around to look at Christmas lights. And we have some areas where they're really elaborate decorations. And, I've done the light tour thing when I'm just driving, and it's always been amazing. But I don't do well riding, especially in something like a big van or a limousine or something like that. I am the most motion sick person that I have ever met. I'm terrible. I will never again go on another cruise because I took one cruise and I spent the first 3 days sort of bent over the railing, feeding the fish, if you know what I mean. It was horrible. It was terrible. So anyway, they're like, oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're all going to get in this Humvee limousine. We're going to go around and look at Christmas lights. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't take any Dramamine or anything, and I end up inside, and they're cruising around. And Mario Andretti behind the wheel, he's just ducking in and out, and he's swerving off the exit ramps, and he's turning. It's hard for me to see what's going on. It's disorienting. It's really dark, except for the lights, the running lights up top, and there's music blaring and whatnot. And I start to feel that feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not feeling very well. Natalie's like, scoot up closer to where the driver is. Scoot up there. Go sit up there so you can see out his window, through his window. So I scoot up. And there are several people's heads blocking that little window through which I could view through the front windshield, so I couldn't really see. And this guy's ducking left, right, into neighborhoods, all around, circles, turns. I'm not feeling well. I feel my face start to flush. I'm starting to sweat profusely. I feel monumentally nauseous. I grab the vent, and I'm blowing cold air at my face. Please don't vomit in the limo. Please don't vomit in the limo. Please don't vomit in the limo. Let it not happen. It cannot happen. Please don't let it happen. Just breathe, cool air on the face, find a fixed point outside the wind. Just try to get some orientation. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. The guy is ducking in and out of finally, somebody in the limo says, I really have to pee. So he pulls into a convenience store, and I crawl out as everybody else goes into the restroom. I'm flushed. My face is pale. I think I'm green. And I said to Natalie, I don't think I can get back in. I don't think I can get back in the limo. I can't do it. I'm going to grab an Uber and get back to the car. You go and have fun. She's like, I'm not going to leave you here. No, go. Finish the light tour. There's another hour, They spent the money. They went to the trouble. Go. Just go. I'm not going to leave you. I'll go home with you, she said. She's such a sweetheart, So I apologize to everybody. I'm so sorry. I don't feel very well. You guys, Merry Christmas. Go enjoy the lights. And they amble back on to the limousine, and they all drive off down the road. And I call an Uber to take me back to where I've parked. I'm looking out the window, wide-eyed, fixed points, orientation. Starting to feel better. Starting to feel better. Starting to feel better. It's 4 miles to the car. I'm in the back seat. We start to pull into the parking lot where my Nissan is. It's right there. It's parked right there. And she spins around this corner and pulls up next to my car. And I get out. And I heaved my guts out all over the... I mean, it was unbelievable. Out there in the middle of the parking lot, there's cars everywhere, and it was humiliating. It was humiliating. I don't think the Uber driver knew what was going on. I got out of the car. I managed to sort of get out, door closed, I'm off. And it was terrible. I'm sure whoever was watching thought I was freaking wasted, right? They thought, well, that guy's drunk off his ass. He's paying for whatever party he just came from. Natalie's just looking at me. Oh, God. Oh, God. I crawl into the car. You going to be all right? Yeah, going to be all right, honey. I'm so sorry. No, it's okay, baby. I'm embarrassed. It's all right, honey bunny. God, I mean, the mess I don't mean to gross you out, but the mess I left behind, it was humiliating. It was humiliating. And I told never again will I ever get in a limousine or whatever to take any kind of tour ever. And if anybody invites me and I don't want to appear rude, I'm just going to tell them this story. Is you do not want me in the vehicle because I was this close. Got all the way home and just sat in a dark corner with a fan on my face. Didn't exactly feel the Christmas spirit. And I think it's been hard to experience the Christmas spirit. I don't know where you live. It's been so unseasonably warm. And part of me doesn't complain about the fact that it's not cold, but I'm kind of alarmed, especially when you hear about all the climate change stuff. And, you know, we are affecting the weather patterns, and now we're starting to see these bizarre changes. You've got really low lows and extremely high highs. It was 75 degrees the other day. All of a sudden, we've got this massive December tornado that plows through, 4 states? You got 80-plus people dead and or missing, maybe more to come in the state of Kentucky. I mean, that's not natural. It's not normal. But also the warmer temps make it feel like it's like September, not December. I can't believe the new year is right around the corner. I saw a meme posted online, and it was like, nobody say that 2022 is going to be your year. Nobody say that. Don't jinx it. You know, just step into 2022 quietly. Don't touch anything. Don't poke it. You know, maybe everything is going to be okay. And I'm cautiously optimistic about the new year. I'm hoping that it's going to be good. I'm finally seeing that events are starting to appear on the calendar. The American Atheist National Convention is going to happen. It's going to happen after they've had to cancel it for 2 years. I've been invited to speak. That's going to be Easter weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. We've got the Florida Free Thought event. That's coming up in March in Orlando. And there are going to be vaccination requirements and that type of thing. They're going to take measures to make sure that we're doing it responsibly. But it looks like life is going to resume, at least to a degree. I've been invited to some other conferences, something in Canada coming up, middle of 2022. And I think I'm going to Portland, Oregon. I'm going to put all this stuff on the website at thethinkingatheist.com and sethandrews.com so that anybody who is in the area who wants to go or participate or whatever can find out. I need to update everything. But I have some optimism that maybe it's going to be all right, despite the anti-mask, anti-vax, anti-science, I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to do the bare minimum to help my fellow human beings as part of a social contract. Blah. And despite those people, despite the conspiracy nuts, despite the insanity, I'm going to hold on to my optimism. And I hope you have something to look forward to in the new year as well. Anyway, I've just been babbling. That's what the holiday week is about. Think of it like when the boss lets you off work early and you can go do whatever you want with the rest of the day. You can just meander. We are meandering. One last official thing on Christmas before I go to the phones. There was an article on a website called thecatholicthing.org. That's the website, thecatholicthing.org. And there's a reverend, his name is Jerry Pokorski. He wrote an article titled Appropriating the Christmas Appropriators. Now, of course, you and I are always talking about the pagan origins of these supposedly Christian traditions. No. Not according to the good Reverend Pokorski. He says in the article, practicing Christians have become a ridiculed, even despised minority in this country. It's more dangerous to your reputation and career to bring a Bible to work than dirty books from the Fairfax County school libraries. The less we talk about Jesus and Christmas, winter holiday, the safer we are in an atheist culture. I mean, already you and I are throwing up in our mouths. Oh, you poor persecuted Christian, you can't even take a Bible to work. Meanwhile, everybody around you has quote-unquote dirty books. Okay. The Reverend says cultural appropriation is just one of the grave injustices recently discovered by woke culture. It is, according to authoritative sources, the inappropriate adoption of elements of a minority culture by members of a dominant culture. Most of mainstream culture has already taken Christ out of Christmas, but you might argue that by cultural appropriation, it continues to make money off of him, while abusing the rights of Christians. So we have winter holiday trees, festive lights, wreaths, holiday spending without Jesus. How dare you? And he puts an exclamation point. Couple more paragraphs because I find them fascinating. He says, I have no problem with atheists making an honest buck off of Christmas. I mean, how crazy is that? Like you and I would only participate in the winter holidays because we're profit motivated? What, are you shitting me? He says, I have no problem with atheists making an honest buck off Christmas, but when an atheistic culture cashes in on Jesus while impugning his followers as intolerant and hateful, it's time to rise up and, well, claim victim status. How have they offended us? Let me count the ways. And then the Reverend says this with a straight face. He says, they have appropriated the Christmas tree. But the Christmas tree is a symbol of Jesus. What? In winter, what is evergreen becomes a sign of everlasting life. And it reminds Christians of the tree of life, an image of Christ on the cross. All right, look at your Christmas tree. Does that look anything like Jesus on the cross to you? Does it look anything like the crucifixion? I think not. The Reverend says they have appropriated wreaths. Wreaths adorn our shopping centers and businesses, but the circular shape without beginning or end represents God. And the evergreens represent eternal life. You get it? They're circular, huh? No beginning, no end. Eternal life. Yeah. Wink, wink. They've appropriated holly. But the holly tree is another Christian symbol. The sharp leaves symbolize the crown of thorns worn by Jesus, while the berries represent drops of his blood. What the actual hell is this guy talking about? They've appropriated seasonal lights and candles, but the festive glowing lights symbolize Jesus, the source of all light. Jesus is the light of the world. And he just goes on and on. The poinsettia, Like the evergreen tree thrives in the winter, everlasting life, Christmas bells represent the hymns of the angels. Candy canes are the staffs of the shepherds who visited the baby Jesus. You poor, poor persecuted Christians. We've taken all of these pagan yet not pagan Christian symbols and appropriated them so we can go out and make money on Christmas in the name of Jesus or off of Jesus or using the symbolism of Jesus. I don't know what he's talking about. Anyway, it's crazy. It's the Catholic thing. The article is called Appropriating the Christmas Appropriators. You poor, poor, poor persecuted reverend. I've got Tim on the switchboard. Talk to me, my friend. What are you thinking here this week?
So my question surrounds mandates in the light of the vaccine losing efficacy surrounding stopping the spread. I understand that there's a lot of data showing that people who get it and are double and triple jabbed have less severe outcomes. But, you know, if you look in the NBA where there's a 90% vaccination rate, and then they're having higher, case counts of corona this season than last season. Same as in the NFL, data out of Israel and the UK is suggesting, especially with Omicron, that it's essentially a wash as far as specifically transmission. When it comes to that element of it, it's seeming like the vaccines are not stopping the spread of the virus. So with that said, should we mandate people get it? Because it's almost like they're just taking their own risk at this point.
A risk of what? If I get a vaccine, if I'm mandated, especially in the healthcare profession, you're going to get a vaccine against this. What am I at risk of getting? What's the risk to me if I get vaccinated?
Well, the risk would be just an increased chance over the mean of not being vaccinated to things like myocarditis or blood clots. I mean, even though it's a small risk,
wait. Hang on. The vaccines would produce a blood clot?
What I'm saying is there are some risks to the vaccines. I mean, I've been vaccinated. You have to sign that form where you look at whether you have to see there's a risk of inflammation, there's a risk of myocarditis, there's a risk of blood. I mean, it's a small risk.
No. It's not a small risk. It's an infinitesimal risk. It is, I'm not saying it's no risk, but as far as the risk of contracting COVID and having either mortality or some comorbidities, not even close.
Well, yeah, and with that being the case or not, I mean, depending on the age group, I mean, some people might argue a 16-year-old healthy individual, the risks are infinitesimal for severe outcomes either way. But I'm just saying specifically around the piece of transmission. I understand mandates for vaccines in the past that we've done where there's data that shows you get your polio vaccine, you're not going to get it, you're not going to spread it. I mean, it's case closed. Same with chickenpox, same with all the other countless vaccines we take. This vaccine being such that it's designed in a way to stop severe outcomes, you're not actually stopping the spread of the virus, which is why the virus in 2021 spread more than it did in 2020, why it's spreading this, it's trending like it's going to spread more this holiday season than even last holiday season. There is no difference, essentially, in terms of the spread of the virus. So you're not at any more risk of getting it from me or an unvaccinated person. Why force the unvaccinated person to get vaccinated?
That's factually wrong. Have you seen the CDC data that shows the clusters of infection rates across the United States? The clusters are hugely more condensed and dense in areas where people are more unvaccinated. And you can actually see it. You can see it graphically where vaccines, people have been vaccinated against the virus. You see infection rates are much, 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 much lower. So this idea that, well, it doesn't really matter because everybody's going to get it anyway. I think is factually untrue. And then you said it at the beginning of your call. Even those who get it, who are vaccinated, they will experience, with very few exceptions, much, much, much milder symptoms. And if someone's working, especially in the healthcare industry, they have signed, in my opinion, a social contract to keep other people safe. They're dealing in many cases with those who are experiencing diminished immune systems. They have, infirmities of all shapes and sizes. They have a responsibility to do everything in their power. And the fact that this weird myth about, the side effects are, you may have this horrible thing happen to you if you get COVID, to me that's a non-starter, because the instances of those aberrations, those anomalies are so infrequent. They're so tiny, especially compared to the risks that come with contracting COVID-19, whatever variant it is. To me, this is not even close. I mean, don't you feel like people, especially in the healthcare profession, have a responsibility to do everything in their power to make sure that they are keeping the people around them safe in hospitals, in emergency rooms, in urgent care facilities, in nursing homes, etc.?
Well, yeah. So, which is why we've had mandated vaccines for years, especially for healthcare workers, and why I'm not necessarily opposed to the concept. My thing, like I said, surrounds the transmission, and you talk about the cluster data. What I'm confused about, and maybe you can make it make sense, is what you have is data that's coming out from Pfizer, Moderna, people who have a financial interest to show the efficacy. Even the CDC, I would argue, many of the people involved in the CDC sit on the boards of these companies. They have a financial interest in seeing that these vaccines work and people use them. So you have their data, which shows very clearly that there's efficacy in stopping transmission. But then you have studies coming out of, like I said, the UK and out of Israel, and then just, anecdotal. I know anecdotal evidence is not particularly good, but when you see things like the NBA, where there's a 90% vaccination rate, and 13 players, actually I believe it was the NFL, where 13 players on one team, all vaccinated, contracted COVID. It's like, I'm trying to make that make sense. How is it that, because if
all right,
I have a barrier of 75% protection for myself, and you have one of 75% protection for yourself, and the guy next to you has the same, that's protection compounded upon protection. How is it that we're all getting it?
Well, first of all, the idea that the CDC and the World Health Organization and the health organizations of all major governments, especially first world governments all around the world, and the entire scientific community, etc., are all in the pockets of big pharma, which is the implication that you're making, right? There's special interests, there's money involved, etc. I'm not
there
saying
are certain people, yes.
I'm not saying that there aren't opportunities for corruption. Anytime there's money and power, we have to allow for that and keep our eyes open. But I reject this idea that, there's a global conspiracy to allow the virus to spread, or to overstate the danger of the virus because you want to cash in, you want to charge the government for vaccines, you want to, stack the deck as far as the hospital balance sheets are concerned. I just reject this idea that it's a vast global conspiracy kind of a thing. I also think that you said it at the beginning of your call. If you are vaccinated, even if you get it, there is an extreme likelihood that your symptoms will not be as pronounced, that it's not going to send you into the hospital and put you on a ventilator, that you're not going to see the comorbidity rates, you're not going to see perhaps even lifetime damage done to your heart, your lungs, your circulatory system, other organs, the brain. I mean, that to me makes the idea of vaccines absolutely make sense. And what I hear a lot of is people are pounding at their desks saying, well, you can't make me do anything. I'm like, damn it, the vaccine is free. It seems to me like the bare minimum. Let's do everything in our power to stack the deck in our favor. I think that's reasonable, don't you?
It's reasonable. And like I said, I'm vaccinated, but people should not be required to necessarily make reasonable decisions.
Now, hang on. I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there. Right? So I shouldn't be required to wear a seatbelt when I get in my car? Because that's a requirement for me to be able to operate a vehicle on public roads, encountering other people. Buildings shouldn't be required to have fire safety alarms and smoke detectors and exits over here because, you just never know. I mean, some people may not get out, and that's a violation of my personal liberties. I should be able to construct the building any way I want. I mean, we're mandated to do things all the time as part of the social contract that we sign.
Well, what you just said is the key. The keeping other people safe, and maybe I missed it. If you could just address the point about how within, specifically sports teams where almost everybody's vaccinated, why is it that it's still spreading? Because it seems like the newest data coming out is showing that this virus is highly transmissible for both vaccinated and unvaccinated people.
The data, what you're giving me is an anecdote about a single sports team. All right. Well, anecdotes are not evidence. All right. And what I'm telling you is that according to the people who are tracking, those who contract COVID, not people who just got it and have mild symptoms, but the people who are contracting it, are much more clustered in unvaccinated areas. And I reject this idea
that people who are highly symptomatic are, but I'm talking specifically the spread. You're referring to the symptomology, which we don't disagree on. What I'm saying is that if Johnny over here is not vaccinated and Billy is vaccinated, both Billy and Johnny can both get the virus and they can both spread the virus, which is why vaccinated people are still not required but suggested, according to Fauci and the CDC, to wear masks. Dr. Fauci just said in an interview yesterday that in a setting where there's vaccinated and unvaccinated people, he suggests at holiday parties and things that people wear masks. And even if people are vaccinated, that's still an extra, quote, layer of protection. So the reason he's saying that is because he's understanding that the level of virus in a vaccinated person's nasal pharynx as compared to a non-vaccinated person's level of virus in their nasal pharynx is essentially the same. Now, the symptomology on average is different, but
let's say though
with COVID in general.
All right, but let's say that the premise of your argument, which I still take issue with, is correct. That essentially we're all on the bubble, vaccinated or not. The reality that if I contract COVID as someone who is vaccinated and my symptoms are extremely diminished as opposed to someone else, I think is another strong reason to require that I be vaccinated. If nothing else, for the reason of the overload in our emergency rooms and our intensive care units, the tremendous burden being placed on the healthcare industry, who, as they treat people with COVID symptoms, often severe ones, become less able to treat all of the other people who are walking into the emergency room doors, who are filling the hospital rooms. I mean, this to me seems like a no-brainer. And I just feel like it's a dumb hill to die on. The shot's free. Let's go get it. Let's wear the mask. Let's do the bare minimums to try to keep other people safe. That's where I land. All right?
All right.
All right. Well, I appreciate the call. I'm going to move on, and I'll let everybody else sort of chew on this. And you've certainly given us something.
One question off air?
I'm sorry, once again?
Could I ask one question and then just have it addressed off air?
You can ask. Go ahead.
So just surrounding the requirements, out of curiosity, if it comes out that like the government says, we suggest every 6 months you take 2 shots and a booster. So do you think that people should be required essentially indefinitely to continuously take shots? And I'll take it off air.
Sure. I appreciate the call. I'm not opposed. Look, there's a global pandemic. How many? We got 4.5, almost 5 million people dead. And of course, this is where somebody jumps in and they're like, well, the hospitals are inflating the statistics. Somebody like there are people in my family. It's all a big money grab. It's all fear mongering so the government can control us and take away our civil liberties. This is why people are throwing masks in trash barrels and then lighting the masks on fire. They're doing mask burnings because, this is an attack on my freedom, blah, 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 whatever. I just don't buy that, There was somebody, again, this is number 3, a guy in my relative circle, like a friend of a family member, in his 40s, who just died of COVID. He was on a ventilator, and I know once you go on a vent, your chances of survival go way, 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 way down. Otherwise, he's in good health, not vaccinated, gets COVID, he's dead. Don't tell me this is a coincidence. Don't tell me, well, everybody, the hospitals are just assigning COVID. There is a global health crisis underway. And this is the hill we want to die on? You're not going to force me to get the vaccine. I'm not convinced it's really going to do anything. Vaccine science is settled science. We understand how vaccines work. You're not giving people COVID any more than you're giving people the flu when they get the flu vaccine. And regarding the variants out there, why do you think people get a new flu shot every single year? Because the flu is always mutating and changing, and we have to adjust to deal with it. 480, thanks for waiting on me. This is Mike, is that right?
That's me. I'm Mike. Listen, you have had a friend who contracted COVID and was put on a ventilator, and he passed away. And my condolences, and I'm really sorry about that. So, but that doesn't mean, well, never mind about that. That's anecdotal evidence, not to sound rude or like an idiot, but that's anecdotal evidence, because I have a niece who was 17 years old who got a vaccine to go to a concert. Her mother gave her the vaccine, or had her get the vaccine so she can go to a concert. Well, within 15 minutes of getting that vaccine, she developed a horrible blood clot or whatever it was, and she is now in a coma in intensive care. My neighbor,
hang on, hold
75
on.
years old.
Let me stop you right there.
Well, I'm just giving you anecdotal evidence
What you're doing is making a correlation. Hang on, hold on. What you're doing is making a correlation. You're making a correlation causation error, right? At the time,
you did too.
I'm saying they found COVID in his system, and it was because of COVID that his heart and his lungs shut down. That's not a correlation causation mistake. They know that COVID caused this shutdown. What you're saying is that someone got the vaccine, that someone got the vaccine and then they had a blood clot. Have you made the connection that the vaccine itself caused the blood clot, or is this an incidental thing?
It's incidental, but it happened within 15 minutes of getting the shot. She was 17 years old. She's still in a coma today. It's been almost a month now. Also, I'm gonna keep making a correlation here. I'm gonna go on and give you another example real quick. My neighbor, who was 74, 75 years old, his brother died within 5 minutes of getting the shot. His cousin died within 15 minutes of getting the vaccine.
Hold on. So you know two people. Hang on.
You know two
COVID people.
And you could die. You could get the shot and you could die. No, I can go on and on because...
All right. What he's saying is he knows two people who got the shot and died within 5 to 15 minutes. That's bullshit. I do not believe that. Statistically, it doesn't wash. Anybody else's red flags go up on that one? Matt, thank you so much for waiting on me. What do you have for the show today?
Hello. I was just thinking, I was hearing about people that were getting vaccinated. Well, not getting vaccinated, I mean. And, once they get sick, they get put into the hospitals and everything, and they're tying up medical resources and all that, and they end up dying. The way I see it is that if you're unvaccinated, I think, honestly, now I know this might sound a bit heartless, but I think they should just be shunted off to the side and allowed to go to make room for those folks that are vaccinated so that they don't tie it up for everybody else.
All right. So to understand what you're saying, if somebody chooses not to get vaccinated, they contract COVID, all of a sudden they're in a life-threatening situation. They need to take a number behind pretty much everybody else in line because they chose.
Because I had a friend of mine who needed heart surgery, but they couldn't find a bed to get it done, and they almost died because all these unvaccinated people, they got sucked up. You know, they were sucking up all the bed space.
I get it. And I also, my heart breaks for healthcare workers who are posting constantly that, please, everybody, we're tired, we're exhausted, our resources are thin. We don't see an end to this. People are not helping. And, everybody needs to do their part. I mean, we put such a strain on the good men and women who are doctors and nurses and medical professionals and support staff and the people who are essentially being there for us in times of crisis. We owe them more than to be so dismissive. Yeah. So that's a good point, Matt, and I appreciate you making it.
And it's gnats, like the bug, only minus the G.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw it's gnat.
Okay. It's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. People make that mistake all the time, especially over the phone.
All right, Nan. Well, you're appreciated, and I hope the holidays are great for you. Thanks for calling.
Oh, and just one last thing. I caught that Halloween thing you did.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, you're very kind.
Excellent. You should think about making money off of that, maybe.
Well, I published an audiobook, but I ain't getting rich on that. But I appreciate the kind words. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. See you later. I mean, talk about something besides COVID. Like, what happens is that, we tee this up and then people listen and they've got an opinion, they get worked up, and I get that. I was hoping that we could sort of have more of a potpourri in this holiday heathenry show. I mean, we can talk about COVID some more, but I mean, did you get tired of it? Quick break, many more of your calls. Calls, no COVID, but calls. We're going to continue our holiday heathenry after this. Thanks so much for listening. Heading toward the Christmas holiday weekend and, of course, the end of 2021. Just a potpourri of your calls today on whatever subject comes to your mind. Mark, appreciate your patience. Thanks for calling. Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you, Seth.
What would you like to talk about today?
Artwork.
Artwork?
Yes, I'm a painter.
Okay.
I actually had a question for you. Is there a P.O. box I could send you a piece of artwork to? I'm not trying to get any promotions, or anything, just trying to get it out there and stuff.
Well, what is it, like a Jesus oil painting, or, is it...
Actually, one of my friends has a Darth Vader Jesus oil painting.
Darth Vader Jesus?
Yes, it's like a helmet, Darth Vader's helmet on Jesus' body, and every time I see it, I'm like, now that's a god I could get into.
I would go to the dark side, I think, for Darth Vader Jesus. So, well,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't have a P.O. box or anything. I really never give out my personal information for obvious reasons.
I understand.
But is it something that you could photograph or scan or email me? I sure would like to see what it is, and I'm so grateful for the offer. But I got to see this thing.
I could get that picture from my friend, but I'm a abstract oil painter.
Okay.
Weird looking stuff. I've actually talked to you on Facebook a couple of times. It's been a while.
Well, what's the painting in question? I mean, describe it to me. I know this is going to be for the radio listener, but what is it?
The one I would like to send you, it's called Clouded Thoughts. It looks like a bunch of neurons, like your brain stuff, the neurons, and it's kind of covered up with tons of oil paint and scratched all around it. It's really interesting, like weird colors and stuff.
Do you have someone who inspires you in the art world? Are there painters or artists that you have been an influence? Forgive the Barbara Walters question, but I am genuinely interested.
Oh, no, not really. I mean, I like all art. I've been doing it since 2013, so it just gives me something to do and it makes me happy.
Well, do me a favor. Send me an email. Just send it to seth@thethinkingatheist.com. And maybe, okay. I mean, I normally for obvious reasons.
I understand.
Ever since I got into radio, I normally, but I do make exceptions, and I'm honored that that you'd make the offer. So drop me an email, seth@thethinkingatheist.com, okay?
Okay, and I'll try to send you another picture of the Darth Vader Jesus.
It's awesome.
It's really funny. I mean, I seen it and I start laughing. I pissed off some religious people when I posted it on Facebook, but
Oh, do
gotta
not
do something to upset them.
Do not blaspheme Darth Jesus. You cannot do that. Yeah. If you see it, shoot a bone grab or something and send it to me. Okay, brother?
Okay. See you later.
Chelsea, thank you for waiting on me. Are you with me?
I'm with you. Happy holiday. Heathen's greetings to you. There you go.
Heathen's greetings.
I heard that one.
That's awesome.
Heathen's greetings.
What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to give you an update on the family situation. I call before the call-in stream, before R and Raw.
Your challenge is that you felt dismissed by your family, where they got to talk about everything that was important to them, and they wanted you to sit down and shut up. Is that a good recap?
Correct. It turns out since Thanksgiving, it just had an epiphany. While I was there, I don't need this. This is not healthy for me. Blood family is not everything. I'm not one of those people that thinks blood is thicker than water. I can do without this portion of the family, except for maybe one or two people that were there. But I'm not going to family gatherings anymore. I finally called it quits. I'm done.
For your own mental health, you drew the line and decided you don't have the right to do this to me, and I'm going to go and enjoy the family I choose. I think it's tragic in so many ways, but I'm also happy for you.
Yeah, I don't quite have family yet, but I have good friends surrounding me, and I'll consider that family for now. This holiday season, I'm hanging out with my two best friends at my place. They're going to be in town. And I wanted to say also, I enjoyed your Spoiled American.
Yeah.
Yes, I enjoyed that so much.
Thank you. Chelsea, I appreciate the kind words and all my best over the holidays and good things for the new year, okay?
All right.
See you. Ciao. Pat, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hey, Seth, I was wondering if you spend much time thinking about free will and whether we have it or not?
Oh, I've gotten into the conversations. It's funny, we played a clip from Christopher Hitchens during the tribute after, the 10-year anniversary of his passing. And he said something like, I know I've got free will because I don't have a choice. And I think about the evolutionary biologist, Dr. Jerry Coyne, who talks about the fact that we don't have free will because essentially we're just animated meat. We only have the illusion of free will. I've dabbled in those waters. For me, it's kind of an academic exercise. I'm not convinced. I think, the brain may tell us we have free will, but the processes of the brain sort of happen before we are conscious of a decision. So I don't know. What's your take on free will?
The same as yours. I think there's zero evidence of free will. You read Sam Harris or Robert Sapolsky. He's a professor out in California. They just laugh at the idea of free will. They study neuroscience and the mechanics of the brain. And just like you were saying, it's just, they can tell that the brain decides it's going to do something before we go to grab something and things like that. And I think it's a really important subject that I think it's just as controversial as religion itself. And it's easy for an atheist to grasp that we don't have free will. And of course, theists, they can't handle that because free will has to work with the whole God idea. So,
yeah.
But it's fascinating when you start to think about free will and you really deep dive into it and read and get people's perspectives on it. And it's an interesting idea. I can't remember where it came from, but they said you won't be free until you understand that you aren't free.
You and I could be skeptical about that, but are we doing so with free will? Or did that happen automatically in the brain? Aha! Now the philosophers are really going to come after us, Pat. Well, I think it's an interesting discussion. It's the kind of thing we could talk about over coffee probably for hours, and I'm sure the people in the comment sections will do the same. But it's a great call. And
I think what it really comes down to is what you were saying. It's clear, someone who really thinks about it deeply, it's obvious that we don't have free will, but it's the people that have a bias and an emotional attachment to being a special person. We've got to be better than the animals and all this other stuff. And so they just won't ever go there.
We operate as if we have free will. Like we have the illusion of free will.
The little trick our mind, our brain does. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's so for me, it's an academic thing, but I become more and more convinced that these are automatic processes that happen in the brain. And then it sort of jumps into the next level where, oh, look, I decided to turn left instead of right. Well, my brain had sort of already gone there. So, Pat, I appreciate you so much. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Seth.
All right. Take care, brother. We'll see you. Oh, I'm going to get email on that one. Free will. I'm going to spend a lot of time on it. You know, I mean, it's up there with the question, do you think there was a literal Jesus? I don't know. There might have been a guy, might not have been a guy. I know there wasn't any evidence for a God-man Jesus. Do I think there was a guy? I don't know. It's academic. We can talk about it. It's interesting, but it doesn't make any difference to me. You know, it's not relevant if we're talking about the deity. You know, it's just that falls into that category for me. I've got Morgan. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Well, I was wondering, is there any way that one can handle dealing with the holidays? Somebody who's a skeptic and say a real conservative community and family. I'm kind of new to this, so I'm still learning everything.
Well, help me understand. You've got a religious family. You're going to spend the holidays with them, and you feel like you're under the gun.
Correct. A little bit, yeah. Just kind of the black sheep of the family sometimes, and sometimes that can cause arguments and drama, and I just want to try to avoid that this year.
You know, I'm not Yoda when it comes to this question because I'm the black sheep who has felt what you're feeling. I've sat at the table and they say the blessing, and then if they get into politics, especially, you know, Christian nationalist stuff, which I hear quite a bit, you know, it's hard for me to not want to crawl on top of the table and start pounding on the wood and saying, what the hell's wrong with you people, you know? So I find myself keeping the peace, which, you know, sometimes isn't even peace. It's just the absence of conflict. That makes sense, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so but I don't have really a solution other than I've made a decision as to how much I'm willing to put up with. I know if I'm going to go there, I'm making a cost benefit decision that it's worth it to listen to a little bit of the bullshit to be able to participate as a member of the family on this special occasion. And I can make that decision to go or to stay. And for me, I've often made the decision to go. I don't choose that opportunity to engage in discussions I know will bear no fruits and bring only conflict. I'm not there to deconvert my family. I have no illusions that they're going to run with me off into Reasonville, you know, and we're all going to frolic off into a superstition-free life together and high-five each other for getting right the God question, blah, blah. I don't have any of those illusions. I just go, and unless somebody comes after me directly, you know, if someone was to ask me to pray or bless the meal, you know, then it's on. Or if somebody addresses me personally or calls me out or puts me under the spotlight personally, then it's on. That's a huge boundary violation. But I can't tell you where your line is drawn. I can't tell you how much you're willing to put up with. I can't tell you if it's worth it. I think only you can determine that. I will say, though, that if you are in the presence of people who are a closed system, I think it's just fine to say, well, I disagree with that. Actually, we stand apart on this issue. No, I think this is actually wrong, and that's a discussion we can have another time. I think you can go on the record and be who you are and speak your mind, just as everybody else is speaking their mind. But engaging at Christmas over turkey and mashed potatoes is likely only going to result in frustration. And, you know, so I think you're playing chess, not checkers at that point. And, you know, you got to protect yourself. Otherwise, you put your head through the sheetrock, you know. So I don't know if that helps at all. Yeah. I don't have great wisdom on the subject. You know, I just don't. I haven't had a lot of success on this subject. I've disconnected from my family for years at a time because, you know, I feel othered in some way. And I've just decided I'll go. If there's some bullshit, fine, as long as they don't target me or single me out. They know where I stand. I'm going to make the most of it. And then after an hour, hey, it's great to see you, and I'm going to leave. And that's just kind of how it shook out for me. And you can decide how it shakes out for you. Okay, Morgan?
Well, I really appreciate it, Seth.
All right. Well, I hope it goes well. And if things go south, call us, tell us about it, okay?
Will do.
All right. Be good. We'll see you later.
I appreciate it.
All
Take
right.
it easy.
Bye. A lot of people have cut their families off around the holidays. Life's short. I'm not going to put up with this bullshit. I think it's the passive aggressive stuff, and there's not I don't sense, if there was a lot of that, I would not go. There's not a lot of that anymore. If there was, I would not go, because passive aggression really is aggression. They're essentially talking to you as they talk across the table to someone else. Did you hear that study about how scientists are increasingly becoming more convinced that the book of Genesis explains the origins of humankind and the Adam and Eve story is totally valid? No, I hadn't heard that. Tell me more about it. Don't tell me they're not talking to me. The only non-Christian at the table, don't tell me they're not talking to me. I'm not stupid. There used to be more of that. These days, there's not. It's not. And so for me, it's worth it. Mom's 84. I know she won't be with us a whole lot longer. Our relationship isn't great. She's mom. I'll go. As long as she doesn't single me out, I'll go. But you get to determine your own rules, what you're going to do. Corey, thanks for waiting on me. What's on your mind?
So it was at work a couple of days ago. Really funny. We were talking about decorating for Christmas, which I'll be honest, I typically don't do. I have a lot of negative feelings around Christmas. It's usually a very tumultuous time. And being a military spouse, being away from my family, I kind of got more close with Christmas and celebrating and having some fun with it. But being, as far as I know, the only atheist at work, I was talking to a couple of ladies, and one of them was saying, you know what, this year I'm not decorating because it's always me. My kids don't help. My husband doesn't help. And then she goes, but then I got scared and I realized, well, what if somebody starts thinking I'm an atheist? And I was like, wait, who says atheists don't decorate for Christmas?
Wow.
And I just kind of thought it was funny. It was like, all right, you know.
Wait, well, now what's their religious belief? I'm guessing Christian. Is this U.S.?
Yeah. So I'm in California. It's Christian of some sort. I know her best friend is Catholic because she's very, very open about going to mass and things like that. But she hasn't specifically said which church she attends.
Obviously doesn't realize how many of her Christmas decorations would be not Christian in origin, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Tell her that hopefully Odin will bring her some wonderful gifts for Christmas and place them under the tree honoring Saturnalia, and that the druid mistletoe hanging, the magical plant hanging over the doorway will hopefully bring kisses and goodness and love. But it is a funny story. I wonder how many atheists they think they know in real life, because obviously this person doesn't understand what atheism is or what atheists do or how they celebrate or practice. I mean, we are a wide, wild spectrum of humanity out there,
Absolutely.
Well, Corey, I hope Christmas is good for you. So from my family to you and yours, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, okay?
Thanks. Happy holidays, Seth.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Katie, thanks for calling the broadcast today. What's on your mind?
So my name is Katie Garner. A little backstory. I'm 28 from Orlando, Florida, and I am an opera singer and a writer. I was raised extremely evangelical. I was homeschooled, and my parents are both pastors. And when I got to be about 19 and decided to explore my sexuality a bit more, things came to a head with my parents. And I actually ended up spending a very abusive, brief time in the adult industry between the ages of 20 and 21. And I am actually in the process of editing a book that I wrote on this topic. And I am still struggling with religious trauma and trying to get my questions answered and to sort through how I feel about life and the mysteries of the universe. So that's kind of where my life is standing at the moment. I listened to your Christopher Hitchens episode yesterday, and it struck me how I am very behind in my knowledge of these great atheistic philosophers and orators of our time because I was absolutely kept from it. And sometimes I don't even know where to begin. You know, I have a very curious mind, and I want to understand it all and delve into it, you know. And sometimes I hear people like you who have been on this journey for so long, you know, and you have all these great arguments and great orators to kind of back you up. And I'm like, man, I need to delve into this so I have something to say to my family. You know what I mean?
You feel like you're making up for lost time?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I remember coming out of the faith, I said I was like the guy who'd been in the desert who had found the oasis and I couldn't drink fast enough. You know, I was just ravenous. I was consuming, it was like a fire hose in my face of all this new information that I had never previously had known existed. That's kind of where you are?
Yeah, I would say. I also did not have a very strong foundation as far as science is concerned because, you know, I was homeschooled and we did use a lot of the religious curriculum like Abeka books and the scientist, quote unquote, Christian scientist by the name of J.L. Wiley. I don't know if you've heard of him. But he wrote the science textbooks that I learned from, and it was kind of a lot about disproving evolution and, you know, showing the quote unquote proof for creationism and all of that. So, you know, it's one of those things where I feel sometimes it makes you feel a little bit like it's not fair because you were not given those opportunities at a young age to get a proper education on these topics.
Yeah, I felt the same. I can so relate. You and I could probably talk for hours about all the stuff that they shielded us from. And now, I mean, even now, I feel like I'm making up for lost time. I get mad at myself for not being more curious, you know, for not knowing more than I know. And I feel inadequate, especially in light of some of these great minds. Like I hear Christopher Hitchens. He was far from perfect, but I think this guy was an encyclopedia. He had amazing recall. Yeah. He was such a great orator. He was such an effective and efficient debater. And he had so many good ideas articulated so well. And then I look at myself and I punish myself for not being that good. And I'll never be that, you know, and you feel inadequate. And, you know, I think I can relate to a lot of that. But you should also give yourself some credit. You've come to that point where you're like, well, I'm wanting to take the journey. I want to find out more. I want to make every day a discovery. I feel curious and, you know, I want to try to fill in some blanks and there may be consequences to that. And I'm willing to deal with those consequences. That's a place that a lot of people don't ever get to. And it sounds to me like you're there. It sounds to me like you're on the road. You know, this is a journey. You and I don't arrive at truth with a capital T. We just follow the breadcrumbs. Right. You know, we're trying to find out, get our bearings and learn more every day. And if something changes, better information comes in. We embrace the better information, discard the old stuff. You know, it's like it's just a living thing.
Right. And one of the reasons I relate to your show so much is because you, like, I've heard you talk about such specific things that I felt like most people are unaware of, because when you live in that kind of weird Christian version of pop culture, you know, because my dad was a youth pastor for most of my formative years. So it was all, you know, Christian music, Christian culture. Everything was very centered around that. And you were taught to feel like it was extremely normal. And then when you get out into the real world, you realize that most people have no idea what you're talking about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. How you doing with hell theology? I'm guessing if you came out of fundamentalism, they had hell on the table for the non-believer, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I have come to the place where I don't really think that hell exists, even from understanding within the context of the Bible itself. It was a misinterpretation. And as I'm sure you've heard a lot of people say, religious trauma still gives you that fear in your head that you could go to hell if you have those moments where you stop and you're like, oh God, am I really doing the wrong thing? Is this really going to catch up with me? What if they're actually right? What if the devil has lured me away from the faith and I'm just believing all these lies, you know, because they put that into your head. They indoctrinate you so deeply that they program you to basically babysit yourself even after you're out from under them, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a conflict between the emotional and the logical part of us. Because when I rationally knew there was no hell, it makes no sense. It makes no moral sense. The scriptures don't make any sense. It's coming out of a debunked Bible, blah, blah, blah. And you see how hell has been used throughout history to control people. But also, irrationally, I was like, oh, God, what if I get this wrong? I'm going to burn forever. I understand what you've been going through.
Right.
Yeah.
And I even say in my book, I make mention of the fact that, like, I do tend to be a rather emotional person, and I come by that honestly because my parents are emotional. But I have realized in some ways, as I have gotten away from that belief system, my propensity towards being emotional has decreased, because when you live with, seeing everything through a Christian lens, the stakes in life are always so much higher, if that makes sense. No matter what you do or say or think, the stakes are just so high all the time. And it teaches you to live that way and think that way. And once you back away from that and the scales fall off of your eyes, you realize, wow, this situation that used to rock me so much, I have no reason to feel so emotional about it anymore.
I don't know if it'll help you, but I have, and I may need to update it, a links page at thethinkingatheist.com. And on that page are resources that may benefit you. And I don't know where your area of focus is first, whether you want to get into more of the debunking of the Bible, or you've already been there and you want to get into health theology more, or maybe you're learning about evolution and how science has begun to answer the questions of where we came from, or you're interested in YouTube channels or whatever. But I've got a list of websites, podcasts, books, and YouTubers on the links page at thethinkingatheist.com. And it's designed as a resource for people who are like us, who are on a journey. It's far from complete, but it might help keep you from wasting too much time doing Google searches and wandering out there trying to find random stuff. This is more of a focused list. So, you might check it out if you are interested. Okay?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Katie, you're amazing, and you inspire and encourage
Thank you.
me. And last thing, if you have not contacted my friends at recoveringfromreligion.org, they deal with religious trauma. They have people who will listen. They're not there to judge. They're not there to preach. They are just listening ears, who many of whom have been right down the road that we've been down. I wish they'd been there when I was deconstructing and deconverted, but they're there now. Recoveringfromreligion.org. If you need somebody to talk to, they're a great resource. Okay?
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Katie. All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Think about all the people who may have had doubts or questions or concerns, and they just never took that next step. I'm afraid. I don't want to burn. I don't want to lose my family. Don't want to lose my community. I'm not sure what life looks like. I've never had to assign my own sense of purpose. Who am I? What's my identity? You think about all these things that keep people in the cocoon of superstition, the cocoon of control, high control religions. And then there are people like Katie, and they say, I'm going to figure this out. And I'm going to be honest with myself and with other people. And it's going to suck sometimes, and it's going to be weird sometimes, and it's not going to make sense sometimes. And there are going to be moments when I say, I don't know, and nobody knows sometimes. And that's okay. At least it's better than filling in the blanks with some mythological answer just to keep myself comfortable, right? Because truth doesn't care if we're comfortable. I want to try to figure out what's true, what's not true, what's real, what's not real. I want to live an authentic life. Katie is doing that. And that is such an encouragement and inspiration to me. I know it sounds like a Hallmark movie when I say it that way, but I'm so honest. I'm being absolutely authentic with you. She is the reason we do what we do. She is the reason we continue to have these conversations. She is the reason that we need to go out there and debunk the bunk. The reason we need to challenge these high control cults and this religious, this mythological nonsense, these institutions who have weaponized the name of God to oppress and to establish privilege over whole sections of the planet, right? This is why we do what we do. I'm going to go and get ready to unwrap a couple of gifts that I have under my extremely modest tree. I hope the holiday is amazing for you. We're going to do the end of year recap as we do at the end of every single year. I'll just sort of compile a list of various stories, January through December of 2021, as we prepare for the new year that's coming up. We're getting ready for show number 600 at the beginning of January. Can you believe we've been on the air for 600 broadcasts? 600! That's coming up. Lots of cool stuff planned in the first month of the new year. To you and yours, thank you. Thank you for your goodness, for being a part of the Thinking Atheist community, for listening, for your support, for just being amazing. Big hug from Natalie, from Linus, Gracie, and even Kat, my family. Hugging your family and wishing you the very best this holiday season. I'll see you later.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming Free Thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.